Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. Want to make sure that everyone can hear us. I usually just ask that maybe put in the chat where I always say dialing in. I don't know why I feel like that shows my age, where you're where you're joining us from. I'm in New York City where it is cold and snowy, and Shannon, very luckily, is in Costa Rica where it is much warmer. But today we're going to be talking about automating your workflows to scale your CFO services. So I'm your host, Kelly Gonsalves. I run a accounting firm out of New York City called Totally Booked. And Shannon is our guest today. Shannon, if you could tell us a little about yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA. I've been a CPA since 2009. And I currently run a fractional CFO practice and have a podcast by the same name called Keep What You Earn. And I've been doing that since 2019.
Oh, very cool. All righty. So here, let me just make sure. There we go. Obviously, I already said welcome, so we're going to skip that one. So today, like I said, we're going to focus on really learning Shannon's process, learning about her firm, and specifically how she pivoted to CFO services and the tools that she uses, one of them being G-Accon. Okay. So what is G-Accon? So if you're joining us, you may have heard about this podcast from, I'm going to assume the interwebs somewhere on the internet, and you might have seen it posted by G-Accon, myself, or Shannon. But G-Accon is a tool that integrates with your accounting system, essentially. So QuickBooks Online, Xero, Sage, and now FreshBooks as well. And it integrates Google Sheets to pull the data out of those programs and help you create really cool dashboards and customized reporting and amongst other things, but really being able to keep that live data coming into Google Sheets is what it's really known for and praised for. It does automate part of that, the repetitive data workflows. So like I said, as you're updating in one of your accounting systems, you're able to then keep your Google Sheets, dashboards, and whatever you've created in G-Accon updated at the same time. And it helps run things like on a schedule. So you can do at the same time of the month, the same time of the week, same time of the day if you wanted to, really just keeping that data up to date. And so it makes itself ideal for accounting firms, fractional CFOs, really anyone that's looking to kind of next level their reporting. And those, I call them predictable, as in we predict the future type services. So we're looking at data and we're going to be looking at, how can we help companies scale? How can we help companies grow? How can we help them get better insights into their financials? And it's definitely a tool that has made itself really essential for those things. Here we go. So Shannon, can you tell us a little more about yourself, honestly? So not just your name, but more about yourself, kind of how you came to be in this space and start the company and all of those good things.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to go off on my own after I left my last position, I was still there and I was building this on the side. And I knew as I was building this that I wanted to offer something for small business owners because so many people don't understand the basics of their financials. And I was hearing from so many business owners that their biggest issue is clarity and visibility. They're like, I don't even see my numbers, or my bookkeeper gives me a P&L every month and I actually don't know how to read it. And I feel too bad to ask because I feel like this is awkward. I've been working with you for 2 years and I've never understood a damn thing that you've given me. So, right? You don't want to have that conversation. So,
Yes.
so they were looking for somebody to make it a little bit easier, someone to kind of bring it to their level and to meet them where they're at. So I knew that there was a calling for this type of service, and to take the data that we love to compile and play with and the spreadsheets and all that stuff and turn it into something that was actually going to enable decision making for business owners. And I said, all right, I want to get out here and start my own accounting practice. But as I grew the accounting side and the bookkeeping and tax, I was like, this is repetitive, this is mundane, this is the compliance work, this is the stuff where we don't really have a relationship with our clients. They don't see us as a trusted
It's
advisor.
the necessary, but it's not necessarily the fun stuff, so to speak.
Exactly. But it's not like, it's not helping them reach their goals. It's helping them stay out of trouble.
Right.
And
That's a good way to put it.
That's the way and by the way, I'm a career auditor. I am so the like stay out of trouble person most of the time. But when it comes to the services you provide your clients, like, are you helping them just stay out of trouble and get to neutral? Or are you helping them really excel, scale, meet their goals, grow? And are you really making an impact for that business owner other than bringing them from fear to neutral, you know?
Right.
So I really wanted to find a way to grow that and to make my clients feel that way. And I decided to actually change my business model a few years ago with G-Accon being a catalyst, which I'll get into. But we really decided to lean into a CFO service that was a small number of clients, very deep on the services. So we do everything from the bookkeeping all the way through the tax reporting, yes, but that is a side dish. That is an enabler for us to do the other work because we didn't worry about that stuff. The fun stuff is forecasting. The fun stuff is budgeting, which I call it profit plan because budget sounds like a diet. So we come up with profit plans. We come up with cost allocations and things for them that set them targets, give them a scorecard, gamify it a little bit, and actually get them involved and engaged in their numbers for the first time. There is nothing more rewarding than seeing a business owner who used to fear looking at their P&L or fear opening a letter from the IRS actually call me and be asking questions and be interested in learning more. So that was the biggest shift for us, was shifting that overall mindset from, I actually used to call this the April 15th one night stand. I would say like from the one time a year, call me when you need me, you up text an April 14th type of person, to like, now we are trusted advisors who are with you year round. I call it wifey family material, invite us over for the holidays types of people. We actually get Christmas cards from clients too. So like that type of relationship. And the enabler for that was really being able to get out of compiling data and into consuming it and advising. And when you spend too much time in just like the data compilation and playing with the data, you miss out on so many opportunities to build relationships and trust and really give people good decision-making ability.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's not to be dramatic, but I feel like it's life-changing. So it's something where, because you're enabling that business owner, that person, to really fully understand. Like, I feel like starting a business, it's like, oh my gosh, I started this business and I'm kind of on go. And now I'm not sure where to pivot, how to grow, how to make these decisions, how to make these changes. And you're able to say like, okay, we're going to slow it down. This is what's really happening. This is what you've done. This is a big achievement. And now you want to grow, and I can show you how to do that.
Yeah. And you brought up a really good point there on like the wins, because one of the things that is underappreciated in what we do is like, how are you celebrating your clients' wins with them? Are you going to pat them on the back and tell them like, by the way, you doubled sales this year. Congratulations. That's freaking awesome. Like no entrepreneur, and as one myself, no entrepreneur gets that parade or the little like card in the mail that's like, congrats, you did this. Like only you know, and you're like, okay, cool. Like get back to work. Like let's see if we can triple it. Like let's just keep going. And we don't really take that moment to celebrate. And that's a big part of what you do, is you're enabling that celebration and letting them know, like, we're scorekeeping for you. Like you've been winning for 3 years and they don't even know. Can you imagine playing a soccer game or something like that with no scoreboard and wondering, I don't even know if I'm winning. I just know I'm playing hard, you know?
Just participation points at that point.
Exactly. But if you know if you're winning or not, you know what to change in the halftime, in the locker room, you know what to tell the team. But if you don't have a scoreboard, like,
and
what
also
are we doing?
deciding what's winning, I also feel like is a big thing, right? So for some people, it's scaling and getting out of the business. And for other people, it's, I want to stay at this rate. I want to be able to still do these things. And just being able to plan for those and really understand what that would take. I think that's also a big part of it. Like helping, I guess, the client understand what the win is. And sometimes I mean, when I meet with clients and they're like, oh, I started my business last year, I'm like, congratulations, that's great. And they're like, oh, thank you. I'm like, it's kind of a big deal. No one has
Yeah.
really, been excited about it with you. So yeah, that's awesome. And it's always funny to me, like kind of how taken back they are, because I guess that's not something that people are congratulating them on, which is not great.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, celebrating the wins and deciding what they are, and then, like you said, hitting those and really acknowledging them and kind of keeping them on track. That's a big deal.
Very much so.
I keep clicking on the screen instead of the screen. There we go. So bringing G-Accon into the picture, can you talk about what life was like before G-Accon and kind of the manual data process, and what made you essentially pull your hair out and maybe want to go look for something else?
Yeah. So really, I was really on my own trying to figure this all out, like we all are. And I was going, okay, so I must need to go into, now I use QuickBooks Online, as a lot of accountants do. And I was going into QuickBooks Online, exporting these reports, putting them into Google Sheets so I could summarize them, trying to like pivot my way. I call it the duct tape and hot glue gun of putting reports
Bubblegum and
together.
Scotch tape is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. So like trying to stitch this together. And I was going, okay, this is taking me so freaking long. I had to dedicate like a whole week of my month to like just the, okay. And I was by myself at the time.
Right.
It's like 4 years ago. So I was just trying to build this up and going, okay, I need to put this report in. I need this type of report. I need to pull this in, and then I need to show them this big fancy spreadsheet, and the clients are going to love it. They're going to love it. I have like 16 tabs. More is better. Yay. And you're laughing because you're like, that is the farthest thing from the truth. But like, we all think that more is better.
Oh, we totally nerd out and geek out and get excited. And then the client's like, okay, thanks. I'll take a look at these. And you're like, oh, I'm so glad I just spent all the hours on this and just glazed right over. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is that when you are spending so much time in just data gathering, you are so task oriented, and you're actually not in the right frame of mind to be thinking creatively, because you're really mechanical. And I don't know neuroscience and things like that, but I also know that like context switching is very difficult. So it's very hard to compile the data, then sit back and look at it for what it is, look at it and make decisions with it. I think you have to be in kind of a different mindset, honestly, to be consuming the data than you are compiling it. So you're going to spend all this time compiling the data over and over and over again. Your brain is probably exhausted. I mean, my eyes will be exhausted from looking at the screen.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and
just
then,
the
right. And then you're doubling the time you're spending, because now you're looking at the data and going, okay, what can I extract from this? What can I do to analyze this? What can I do to, like, what should I be looking for? And the auditor in me, by the way, which is my background, the auditor in me is just like looking for little details and like little things close to the decimal point, I call it, and saying, oh, that, like, what's that $100 doing? And what's this doing? And you just get so caught up in the detail because you're involved in the detail.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing, is getting yourself, especially as the founder, as the CFO, as the CPA, getting yourself out of that role of data compiler into pure consumption. And I thought, okay, I need to hire somebody. I need to hire somebody whose like literal job it is to run these reports and paste them together for me. Who is that person? Like, what do I call this person? Because I have a bookkeeper, but I need like a financial reporting person. But as I realized it, this is right when I was working with a mentor. His name's Michael King. So some people might know him. He is a well-known mentor in the fractional CFO space. And I worked with him closely, and I was like, I am just killing myself. Like, I can't take more clients on. I'm at capacity with like 5 clients. Like, I can't do this. Like, this is exhausting. But I can't hire someone whose entire job this is 1 week a month.
Right.
So this is kind of challenging for me. And he goes, well, I use this thing called G-Accon. And I was like, what is this? And he may have just like told me about like sliced bread. Right? I go, wait a minute. You're telling me that like I didn't have to do all this stuff and that this would do it for me. This sounds too good to be true. I signed up for it, and I started using it. Now I hired a consultant to help me implement, who has also done several of the webinars with you guys. And he was amazing to implement these things and say, okay, what do you want to show on here? What's like the most common metrics that you want to track for your clients? And we track a main 4, which is revenue, gross profit, net profit, cash. We call it like the core 4 metrics, right? So these are just going to be trending. We just want to track the performance of all these things. We didn't want to get too fancy. We said, let's just keep it simple. And then we'll build on it based on what we need. And that's exactly what we did. So every client gets a CFO report. It has several tabs in it with all of the reports from QuickBooks Online refreshing twice a day. And on top of that, we have a dashboard that's a little bit more visually pleasing. And we actually kind of like, we kind of separate the spreadsheet actually into the detailed sheets, which are colored in a certain color, and then the consumption spreadsheets for the client friendly ones, which are colored in another color. And I say, you guys stay in the green. Don't go to the blue. Like don't go look
Only
over
look
there.
at what I'm telling you to look at.
Yeah. And the green tabs in my case, because those are my brand colors, the green tabs are dashboards, the punchline of the story, right? The notes that I took from consuming everything and what I'm seeing. The blue just simply backs it up. And I think where people are typically not saying getting it wrong, but might be missing the mark on client service and quality is they're showing them how the sausage is made. They're showing them all of these crazy reports, and your business
part of
owners
it
are
is
so
you're
overwhelmed.
so proud of yourself for creating the reports. You're like, look at all this. I put all this stuff
Look
in
what I
here, and they're
did.
like, oh God, there's so much stuff in there. And so it's like the two different views. So the green reports for them are more of a, I've looked at it. Here's my summary.
Yeah, this is what you pay me to do. Like you don't have to look at the blue.
I need you to look at. I don't need you to look at the rest. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. This is where we're going to focus. And so you're using G-Accon to pull those reports out and then also to create the dashboards?
Yeah. So we're pulling the dashboards in and we're just using those to kind of introduce people to the numbers. It's kind of this is the first time a lot of our clients have really gotten involved in looking at their numbers on a regular basis. We're trying not to overwhelm them. So we want to keep it super simple and get them used to understanding the difference between gross profit and net profit, the difference between markup and margin, the difference between revenue and profit. They don't know some of these things. And I think that we are so...
It doesn't help too, and I learned this early on, it doesn't help that we call them different things sometimes.
Yes.
And so...
How many names does net income have?
I was going to say income statement, profit and loss. Like we just throw the names around and then they're like, wait,
EBITDA?
Is that the same thing? Right.
EBITDA. What? So it's so freaking complicated for them, guys. And but the craziest thing is that your value comes from the simplification. Like the more you can distill down and simplify things, the higher value you are, which is so contradictory to our nature, which is more is better. And I'm like, actually less is way better because less, more impactful things enable better decision making because it's getting to the point and it's giving them limited actions because our clients are like not the most obedient all the time. They're founders, they're entrepreneurs. If you give them 3 things to do versus 8, they're more likely to get all 3 things done and do one of the 8. That's more of what it's like when you look at what you're asking them to do for you or what do you think are the needle moving activities. You have to limit that down to, well, what is related to your goals? What are the things that we should be tracking? There's so many things we can track and I get so excited. I actually just onboarded a client this morning and I was like going through 38 metrics in my head of like, we could measure client LTV and then we can measure this and we can measure the revenue trends and the lead generation and da. And I'm going, but like, what do they care about?
Yeah.
Like what actually matters? Like, what do we start with? And let's track 3 things closely instead of chasing 25 chickens, right? You don't catch any. So what can we chase? What can we like be relentlessly focused on and grow that will be a catalyst to the other things? Like we don't have to do all of it right now. I think we all get excited in doing more. Like you said, like reporting, look at all these pretty spreadsheets I made. They don't care. I'm sorry, but they really do, like they don't understand it. And therefore they just get overwhelmed. It actually has a negative impact when they have too much data.
In your pivoting to CFO, fractional CFO services, I think you also see, I guess, less time, right? So a lot of times it's how much can they consume in the short meeting that we have, because it's also going to be a matter of what can I have them focus on after we get off this meeting? What is their homework, so to speak, for the next time, right? And so a lot of it is I have to put in front of them exactly what they need or what they want or what we've decided is what they're going to focus on. Because if I give them a bunch, it just, like I said, glazes over and it stays in their inbox and that's pretty much that, right? So I think a lot of it is creating these reports and these dashboards, having them focus just on what you've decided is important together, and then hey, we're on this call. I only have 15 minutes. I have to run to a meeting. My so-and-so called out today. I have to get someone, whatever the case is, right? Business owners are kind of always shuffling and doing. I think it's getting them to focus on those things really helps. And then, like you said, they kind of praise you for that simplicity of thank you for not getting on this call and throwing a bunch of reports at me that I don't understand. Yeah. And so you've really taken that next step to make it visually pleasing, but then also focused. And I think that's probably the biggest factor.
Yeah, and custom to them and their goals, because I couldn't tell you how many people spit out like, here are the standard 8 KPIs that we measure. And it's like, but do these matter to these people? Have you connected those KPIs to these people's actual goals?
Right.
Like, how is that number going to send their daughter to private school? How is that number going to enable them to take their Florida vacation that they've been planning on? Like, what are those things that you can connect it to say, in order for this to happen, this must happen and this must happen. And that's why we're telling you to do this, so that they understand that it's contributing to that overall goal. It's like, why am I eating broccoli? Because you said you wanted to get into your bikini body for August, remember? Right. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. And then they remember why they want that thing. And then they go, okay, I'll do it. But, but you have to remind them of the bigger why, because they're distant from that and they don't understand how it all connects necessarily.
And I think, I was going to say, and it's also those baby steps of, so this is my goal here and this is where we're starting. So these little things that we're doing in between are what's going to get you there. Like you said, the broccoli.
So it's communication. And I think this goes back to like, your role should be the communicator and not the data analyst. And I know that's really hard because a lot of people really gravitate toward that skill of data analysis, but a lot of it is the storytelling.
We live in the spreadsheet. It's safe.
Yes, it's nice to save in my little box. But so like what G-Accon enabled me to do, right, was we have all these reports. And I know I just said like, don't do the 16 tab spreadsheet. Like we have a 16 tab spreadsheet. We just don't show it to them. We consume the 16 tab spreadsheet. We have things like they enable us to do a profit and loss by week, a cash flow by week. So we can do a forecast, right? I can see the last 20 weeks of cash flow and I can see where things are going and I can analyze that and look for trends and patterns. So I can do the forecast a lot more easy. And then I also look at the historical 13-month P&L, 13-month cash flow, 13-month balance sheet year over year, profit and loss year over year. We have all of these different tabs for like anything. You can slice and dice this so many ways. It's kind of overwhelming and also really cool. But there's so many things that you can extract from it. We have a standard set of reports that we put in every CFO report for us to consume. And then we built an SOP for my team, my employees, to say, this is how you review a set of financial statements. And here are the questions, the prompts that I want you to do by consuming the G-Accon reports. So it's like, what are you seeing in trends and revenue? As opposed to, did revenue go up or down? It's what is causing trends and shifts in revenue? What can we notate for the client? So it's asking those bigger questions and taking that data, all those reports that are refreshing for us every few hours, and having that real-time access to data. Even just telling the client that this is basically real-time access, like to the day. I can't tell you how many business owners say, I maybe get a P&L day 20, day 25, or the end of the following month.
After the fact,
That data is so stale at that point to make decisions with that it's not really adding value. But this enables us to have a really quick close. It enables us to then spin back within day 10, hear all of our findings for the end of the year, right, or the end of the month, and send it back to the client and say, here are recommendations, before anybody else even gets a P&L of their peers. And it's really helping us differentiate ourselves as a firm, but also elevate the expectation of our clients to say, wow, this is possible. And I'm like, it absolutely is. We have to use technology. And G-Accon was that for us.
Yeah. And then also kind of, I guess, byproduct of that, you get to raise your fees and charge more for your services because you're providing something that's very different than what is being offered out there for the most part. I know I saw a question come up about something about charging and billing, and it said something to do with like, how do you keep track, I think, by the hour time tracking, and how do you then translate that to billing your clients? Do you want to
I'm gonna commit the accountant's sin and tell you I've never tracked a single billable hour in my firm since I opened.
Congratulations.
I refuse. I absolutely refuse. I think those are some of like the ground rules I had when I started my firm was like, no billable hours. It was like, what did my other firm do? Let's do the exact opposite. Like, let's just completely.
Yeah, you wanted to get far away from it.
Yeah, I started building my practice on culture. Like, what do I want this workplace to be? What types of people do I want to attract? What are my values here? And it may sound a little fluffy, but it's like, you have to do that and say, billable hours just don't align with my values. They just don't, because I believe in trust in my people to be working and to care about the byproduct for the client and the impact it's making. Enough that I don't have to track their time. I feel like that's a little big brothery for me. Respect if you do it, you have your own methods. But I believe in the power of when you gain efficiency, you simply get more time to do other things. And you don't have to fill it with anything. And you don't have to increase your utilization or anything like that. I say, guys, if you get all your tasks done for the week in 30 hours, cool. See you next week. Like, cool. Go pick up your kid from school. Go take some time to yourself. Like, we do not need to kill ourselves here.
Right.
And the funny thing is that the less we do, this is a big lesson I learned in the last 2 years. It's like you think, oh, but to charge these prices, I must have to do more for these clients. And the biggest mindset shift I had to go through is, no, it's the opposite. I need to like leave them the hell alone.
Yeah.
And just focus on the meaningful metrics, the meaningful tools, listen to them. Stop creating more things to do and just listen to what they're asking for, the questions that they're generating, build trust, and make sure I'm a listening ear for them so that they come to me with, hey, I had this question, or I'm worried about cash. How are we doing? Should I open a line of credit? Should I do this? Should I do that? And being able to thoughtfully answer them and not make them feel lesser than for asking those questions.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I can't tell you, especially when I first started, how many times I would come across a client that was like, oh no, I can't reach out to my CPA. It's, summertime, or it's the middle of the year. They're going to charge me as soon as, I pick up the phone. And I'm like, well, sometimes we have to, so sorry, but maybe also look for someone that doesn't do that and that you feel like you can reach out to and ask questions of. And so I strongly encourage that model. So I appreciate you for that, because like oftentimes clients are in this weird spot of like, my accountant is off limits until it's time for that tax return.
Or because they also know they're going to get a bill for a phone call or whatever, that they think, oh, I don't want to bother them.
Right.
And quite the opposite. I think that we say, we want you to talk to us more. We want you to ask us more questions so that we can ensure good quality of the product and get involved all year round. We don't want to find out. I always tell them I hate past tense stories like, hey, I bought a vehicle. I'm like,
I did this thing.
What? Like I did a thing. And I'm like, I always hate that. It's like the car commercial at Christmas where it's like, I bought a car. And it's like, why would you do this without talking to me?
Why would you talk to me? We can't afford this car. Yeah, I love that commercial.
Yeah. So I have that same feeling. And I actually joke around with clients. This is a great way to explain it to them and say, like, those car commercials where you just cringe and you go, how would you buy a car without talking to your spouse? This is so unrealistic. And I'm like, how would you buy a building without talking to your CFO? So I like to make light of those things and explain to them, this is what our relationship should be. But back to like the enablement of it is what we do is G-Accon will update everything. Our team will consume it. And constantly they're always reading up on what the client's up to, looking at the data in G-Accon through the reports. But the fun thing about it is that it's writing the story for us. All we have to do is read it and summarize it. And it sounds so simple, but you can fill your time doing that.
There were people asking some questions, and I don't think we made this clear. So another part of G-Accon, and if you haven't looked in a while, it did change from a couple of years ago. They have a lot of templates in place now. So it's not that it's just importing this data and you're like, okay, now I have to go build this dashboard. I have to make it pretty or change the colors. You actually have those options in there in templates. And so bringing in the data, choosing the template that you'd like to use, choosing that dashboard that you want to put in front of them. Those are things that you're not having to build from scratch. And so some people are asking, like, when you have to pivot or you have to change the data, or if they want to change a report, there's a template typically in place for that. And so you're not starting from scratch on your own. That's
and
kind
all
of
our clients
of it.
Yeah. And tactically how we'd handle that is all of our clients get the same core dashboard of these like 4 metrics, because who doesn't need to track their revenue, gross profit, net profit, and cash.
Right.
And then on top of that are client specific things that we're tracking, like project profitability from my construction group. Then I have an executive search firm. So we're looking at lead gen and looking at sales by team member. I have a few others, and I actually don't industry niche, which is, I know, another sin, but it's mostly like a founder type and a business maturity that I love. And that like 3 to 5 million is like my sweet spot right now, a little bit of like 5 to 10 million. And they all have a very similar phase that they're in, we'll say, where they're focused on certain aspects of their business growing and scaling. And we focus on, well, what are the things that you need to see on a weekly basis to score keep yourself on those goals? So we add those to the dashboard custom when we onboard. So we customize the chart of accounts, we customize their dashboard. So it's basically like same ice cream, same fudge, same whipped cream, different cherry, right? So it's a little bit of the same stuff up until a certain point, but everybody feels like it's super custom because they don't know that most of these reports are standardized. They see their data. So it's mostly about finding a way to standardize a certain percentage of it so that you are able to implement the same process within your firm, right? Repeating, but that little extra layer of, well, but now put your
on top.
right. Well, I say you put your client ABC hat on. You are now the founder of this company. And now you need to consume this from their perspective. I joke around with my employees and I say, like, light a candle, go om, and say, I am now embodying
Channel the founder.
an e-commerce vendor from California, and I am now this person. Like, it's like method acting. I go, you're method acting into, like, you're the founder. Think about this person, their goals. And there's constant references in our CFO report, actually, qualitatively, constant references to their goals. So reminding you that this is what we should be focused on, and this is what we should be paying attention to in the books, and not, obsessing over miscellaneous expenses and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So someone's asking you specifically, as a top podcaster and industry thought leader, what trends do you see shaping the future of automation, specifically in CFO services?
Oh man, it's an interesting question because I'm just a practitioner like you guys, and my opinion is just based on this is what could happen in my thought. But I think AI is huge, and I think AI is going to be the next catalyst. But I also think that without quality data integrity, then the AI is going to be working off of bad data. It's always like garbage in, garbage out.
I was going to say that's exactly what was about to come out of my mouth. Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. So what specifically, like, just bringing this back to like the example with G-Accon, is that it was kind of that in the middle step of, we can focus on data integrity on the input side, on the bookkeeping, because we do have bookkeeping as part of the service. So we do the bookkeeping input. And then on the back side, we know that the data has integrity because the bookkeeping team entered it in, but the reports enables us to catch patterns, catch, possible mistakes, breaks in assumptions and expectations. So I think that if you can train AI to do some of those things, and we've actually started this, we've started to kind of train an AI quote unquote employee to like analyze financials the way we do with our SOPs. But I think that the advent of AI starts with, but do you know how to do it without AI in a clearly understandable, teachable way? Do you have a method? Do you have a system? Do you have a process that is documented, an SOP, a clear delineation of who does what and what success looks like? Can you define that? Then you will be able to maximize the use of AI. Because I think what people are going to do is try to jump into using AI models without putting in the work of figuring out, what does a win look like? What does success look like for us? What are we trying to extract out of this? And they're just going to throw it at the wall, so to speak. I think that the more you can refine what you're doing in a formal process, the readier you'll be when that becomes the norm.
Yeah. I think like a friend of mine used to say, human empowered AI, right? So there's still a factor of what we have to teach it and tell it and show it and ask of it, and very specifically to get the results out of it that we want. And it's funny because as we were about to talk about how it impacted your firm, and that's pretty cool. You're training an AI bot. But in this case, I think we're going to focus on the humans, right? So you got to a point, well, I guess in the very beginning, but you said you were limited to those 5 clients, and then this freed you up. So I think, and I'm going to assume here, but I think also it sounds like your employees were happy to have this tool come in and help them then do work that they maybe enjoyed a little bit more.
For sure. I think they can attest to that. I wish they were here because they would be like, raising their hands, like, preach. No. So believe it or not, I just realized this talking to you guys. Having G-Accon was a catalyst to me hiring really top tier talent, because in the interview, the second round interview, I showed them what this does.
Oh,
I said, you're not going to run reports that like, you're not going to do this. You're
right.
going to be doing this. And they saw what it could do. And they were like, oh my God, my
This
whole
is
job
so
was just what
cool.
but like I have one employee, her entire job for 50 clients was what G-Accon does.
Oh my gosh.
It was literally, she's like, my entire job was what this thing does. And she's like, well, what am I going to do for you at your company? I go, here's the best part. Like, you've just been promoted.
Right.
So now it's enabling employee development because now instead of getting stuck in the cycle of running reports
Hamster
and
wheel.
running data, they're now learning how to read the data for the first time and really consume it and tapping into a different skill set.
Mhm.
And that's been really the most impactful for us is no. They're going to take care of that. It's like we actually called it the intern for a while. We're like, the intern does that, right?
Okay.
So we basically delegated it to G-Accon and
Smart.
said they're going to run all the reports. And the team has just absolutely loved it because they're just going, wow, like the work I normally would get done in a week is now done in a day. And the beauty of it is we don't try to fill all of that time with meaningless tasks. We go, yes, you're going to get done faster. Excellent. We can take on more clients now, right? We can take on more work and we can improve our processes a little bit more so that nobody is really feeling burnt out. We don't work busy season hours. We don't do extended hours. We just work, I'd say between 30 to 40 hours year round. Each person. Now I work a little bit more as the founder doing other on the business things, but from the standpoint of working for our clients, like we're very happy with the impact we're making.
So it sounds like it also has allowed you to offer, attract that top tier talent, but then also offer a better
Work environment.
I was going to say work environment, maybe work-life balance for people in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's also because they know that they're not going to be like just clicking mouses all day and the in QuickBooks and running reports. It's more interesting work because I do believe that a lot of professionals in our industry, and this goes into like the accountant shortage that's coming and the pipeline of accountants. I think that especially this generation incoming really wants to make an impact.
Yeah.
They are impact driven. So as opposed to being content with simply clicking the buttons and running reports all day, they're going to be like, well, what is the meaning of this? Like, what is this for? What
Where
is
does
the
this all
end
go?
game? Right. And like,
Yeah.
what is the end game of this? And how am I contributing to the greater good? And it's really hard to connect those pieces if you're clicking export.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that this has been enabling us to make that connection with the client's real impact and it's just enabling them to focus on bigger things and honestly give them the space to think.
Yeah.
And that's been the most powerful thing.
And also, I think for you as the founder of your company, you're able to now also kind of weed out who is going to be a good fit. So who is technology friendly. So like when you're showing them G-Accon, they're excited. It's very different than somebody's like, oh wait, my whole job was 50 hours of this and now you don't have a job for me and freaking out. Right. So like instead it's like, okay, great. I don't have to do this part anymore. I can focus on something else and I can kind of grow from it. So I feel like you hiring talent, that also helps to find the right people because some people are technology averse and it's good that you can kind of clear that up right away.
Yeah. But also like, I want to go on the record saying you don't have to be a tech wizard to like, I'm a millennial with a podcast. People are already going to drown me out and be like, whatever, she's doing her thing over there. No. Let me explain. I am like the least useful. And Elena's here from G-Accon answering questions in the comments and like, she can attest to this. Like I am such a novice user of this thing, but I implemented a basic level of G-Accon, and even at the most basic level of implementing it, it has changed my firm. I'm like the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, of what I could do with this tool, and I know that. But I'm also realizing that, you don't have to be a techie to do this successfully. Like you can bring in a consultant, you can bring in somebody who's an expert. The team is amazing at support and giving you what you need. I was amazed that like week 2, I had questions about this thing and the functionality and like the founders just hop on the phone with you. And I was like, this is so cool. This was also 3 years ago. They've grown a lot since, but I was just pick up the phone and it's like, yeah, we'll just walk you through it. Like, this is amazing. You don't get this from the other software providers. Like, no shade to Intuit, but like they're just so big. I can't get anybody on the phone who can like really understand my issue. But it was great because I had a fellow accountant helping me master this thing. And it really is not super techy. Like it's no harder than like figuring out how to download an app on your iPhone and use it. It's pretty straightforward.
That's awesome. Is there a specific story or change story maybe for one of your clients that you want to share?
I would say, oh, that's a good question. A specific change story for my clients, I would say, there are a couple of clients that come to mind, and I kind of touched on this earlier, where they had never actually looked at their financials before. They were absolutely terrified to look at their financials because they were never taught how to. Like, you don't get a pamphlet when you open a business. It's like, hey, here's what you need to care about. Here's how to read a P&L. Here's what a P&L is, right? But they were very averse. It so much so that I asked them to send me a picture of an IRS letter they got. They sent me a picture of the letter still in the envelope, like the closed envelope on the, like right straight out of the mail. And I was like,
what am I supposed to do with this? I don't have X-ray vision.
We're too afraid to open it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So these people, right? So these are the people I would work with. And while that may seem like, oh my God, Shannon, like that sounds like a terrible client, it's such an opportunity for transformation.
Yeah.
Because I see somebody here who has a lot going on with their story around money and around their numbers. And I said, okay, I'm going to make this really approachable for you. Let's start with tracking your sales. Let's find out what you're bringing in for sales. Let's find out what you're bringing in here, the profitability by product or by offer. Come to find out, one of their offers was dragging them down and their profit potential was so much higher. But we were able to then generate through customizing the chart of accounts and then monitoring this through all our financial reporting. We were able to then say, hey, I think this particular product or offer is actually like, we should just get rid of it. Your margins would be here, but they're here. Like they were 63% and they could have been 79. And it's like, whoa. And once you realize that, you go, oh, wow. Like I had who was going to tell me? Right. You know, it's the tag sticking out the back of your shirt.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know.
Yeah. Is anyone going to tap me on the shoulder? Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody needs to tap on the shoulder and be like, hey, hey, you got this, right? Us girls were good at that.
Yeah.
But
true. I'm happy. I'll approach a stranger, no problem. I'm like, hey, excuse me.
Right. So it was kind of like that light little tap that's like, hey, you may not know this, but I found this thing and I want to tell you about it. And no shame, but like, this is something we could possibly do. And we talk through it. But those types of decisions don't happen. And it might be so obvious to us because as accountants, we kind of take the emotion out of it. We go, of course they should get rid of that product. That's awful. Their margins are terrible. How do they not know this? And that's what goes through our minds. But like, because they can't see it, because they don't know how to interpret this and they're just doing their best and they're out there just trying to sell.
I remember
but I think when you can connect that, it's good.
Yeah. When I first started, it was somebody used an example on a webinar of like a photographer who had a shop, but then also did events like weddings, and the weddings were big ticket, right? But then she also had to hire someone to help her. She had to travel. She had to, set up shop at the wedding, break down. It would take a whole day, shut down the shop in the meantime. And somebody, an accountant came in and basically said, well, I understand this is a big ticket item, but because of all the expenses associated with it, you're actually losing money on these events. If you kept the shop open and just did the in-house stuff, the portraits, the school pictures, the whatever, you would be more profitable. And it's like, what? Because a wedding photographer, you think thousands of dollars for one day, but the reality is it may not actually be profitable. And oftentimes business owners literally like look right past that part and just go to, oh, this is a big ticket. This is a big invoice.
More is better. They're guilty of the more is better too. More offers, more things, launch more sales, launch more things. And it's like, but what about the ones that are working? Can we just double down on that? Like, could we just do more of what's already working? Yeah. And I think that our role as CFOs is really to encourage the business owner, but at the same time, also kind of bring that realism that we do so well in saying, actually, the numbers are telling me a different story and let me explain. And this is what I'm seeing based on the numbers, based on what I'm seeing. And we collaborate, right? But we have that conversation, but that's value add. And this goes all the way back to having something that helps you save the time you're spending on doing a lot of that reporting and enabling you to really start thinking about those strategic decisions and the goals of the business owner. That is where you just multiply your fee. Like straight multiply your fee, because the value you're providing them goes well beyond what a robot can do, what what AI can do. And the client definitely isn't savvy enough to take a product like a G-Accon and do it themselves. Like they
Right.
wouldn't even know what to run.
Or
And
where
that's
to
why I
find
think,
it.
yeah, and it's so
Yeah.
important though that we intervene and we are as experts then help carry them through that process and say, here are all the reports that I think are important. I'm going to read them for you and I'm going to summarize this for you.
Right.
And that's the value you give them, is you're saving them the time in not having to educate themselves on this because they have you
Which
as an
is
expert.
often stuff that we already know how to do. We
Right.
just don't necessarily put it in that format. And so
Yeah.
oftentimes we have the power, so to speak, within us, and we just didn't realize it.
Yes, it's very much like Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Wizard of Oz.
You
It's
had the answer the whole time.
yeah, like you had the power the whole time. And
Yeah.
I actually felt like the Wizard of Oz was like a good metaphor for like, I made all these reports. I took this really long time to get there. I, didn't take the train. I
Yeah.
took the yellow brick
Follow the
road.
yellow brick road.
Yeah. I followed the whole yellow brick road to doing it all manually and then found out that, just kidding, no one actually cares that you didn't need to go all this way just to get to the point where you could charge more money. You just had to believe in yourself that your value was worth charging more money. And it's a big mindset shift to get, but I think that was a big catalyst to being able to have the model that we have now. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but we now have 12 clients
Mhm.
and that is our cap. Like we are actually at client capacity currently, but we are on track to do a 7-figure business.
That's awesome.
So I'm telling you, you can build a 7-figure business.
Congratulations. See,
with
that's
12 clients.
great. The wins.
Right. But with 12 clients who I freaking love and I will go to bat for and cheerlead and feel part of the team on. And that's what we wanted out of our business. And all of the tools, all the people that made that possible, I couldn't be more grateful for that.
I think that's another big pivot. You kind of touched on moving into that fractional CFO role is really more of moving into like a really ingraining yourself as a partner to that business owner, right? So getting involved, kind of getting your hands dirty, understanding, who works for them, the products that they offer. When I first started, I had an accountant that I was recommended for my taxes. And he said, oh, people teach you, they pay you to teach them QuickBooks. They pay you money to help them, understand the program. And I was like, yeah. And at that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, this man does not know what I do, nor does he understand why it's valuable, nor can he actually help me make any decisions. And I pivoted immediately because it was a red flag. But a lot of times company owners don't necessarily realize that an accountant could be that person for them. And so they're looking to sometimes coaches or strategists or whatever it is. But the numbers are there and we have the skills. It's just a matter of how we present it to the client and how we work with them. But
it's all messaging.
Ingraining yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's messaging from your marketing, from your brand, all the way through like to who you're attracting as a client, all the way to how you treat them during onboarding, all the way to how you treat them as a client and how you offboard. Your messaging and the message they're receiving is paramount. So you have to make sure that you're getting really clear about what value you're offering. And you're not just articulating value in deliverables, but in how they're going to feel, what they will accomplish, what goals you can help them accomplish together, and how you're going to be a collaborator with them. Because I think that that's a huge shift into like, well, what's included in your services? I don't have a list of reports.
Right.
I don't include a list of reports. I include a list of, here are the things that we focus on year round for you and that we take care of. And here are the things that I think are going to be the biggest tools to help move you forward in your goals. And, but we have to be shifting that focus from talking to them to listening to them.
And I think it's also a mindset shift of feeling comfortable enough to have those conversations. And so sometimes it's the type of clients that you work with. Like you said, you have 12 clients that you love to work with, which is very different than, I have to get on a call with this client and I have to go through and they never listen to me and I don't.
We call that the inbox sigh. When you get, you all know this. You get an email from a certain person, it's in bold and unread, and you go,
yeah.
If that happens to any one of my team members, I said, you need to sound the alarm and let me know immediately. We will look at why that's happening and look at maybe there's probably some type of misalignment here, because if you're not freaking excited about serving each one of these clients, we only have 12 seats in the first class cabin here, guys.
Right.
We can upgrade a coach. We can then boot someone off the plane and someone else will buy the seat. I've always used that metaphor that we have a first class cabin and we don't spend time giving champagne to row 32B. We don't deal with that. We just decided that's the model and stuck with it.
And you're firm with it, which I think is also something to commend you for. I guess we have a little time for questions, but someone did ask, I think you mentioned in the beginning, a consultant that helped you onboard to G-Accon. Do you have that person's info?
His name is Andrew Forte, and he is amazing. He's actually based in South Africa, and he's a chartered accountant, I believe. And he knows what, like if I say I need a P&L that does this, like he knows it. So, and he works closely with G-Accon. I think he's done several webinars with you guys before. So he's phenomenal. But Yelena, who is Kelly put it in, and Yelena, who's here from G-Accon, has worked with him before. Also, they have an amazing YouTube channel, by the way. Their YouTube's actually really helps me with the dashboard setups and things and the templates, and he does host several of those.
Smart. Okay. So yes, I put his name. I'm sure Yelena can actually add his info if she has a website. One more question. How do you deal with accounting errors that might skew your recommendations to your clients?
So our process really includes weekly transaction allocation, and of course the daily update to the flows. And then I have a manager in between who does a quality control of the books through like a financial statement review, looking for trends, patterns, breaks, and expectations. Like, why did that go up $3,000 this month? Why did this go down? And like investigates the why behind certain things. Okay. So we have like basically 3 layers of professionals kind of asking those questions about accounting errors. But a big thing for us is really bringing that materiality component into it, where if it's not going to change a decision, we don't waste a ton of brain calories on things that are really close to the decimal point, the hundreds of dollars.
Looking for the 50 cents.
Like reconciling to the penny. Oh my God. But like if we're talking about a $10 million business that wants to get to 20 million, that $500 of office expense, I'm like, it's not even worth the Slack message even pinging me about that. Trust your judgment. You know what to do. and move on. And that's really hard for people to let go of.
Oh, I agree. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the weeds, unfortunately, and that's part of what holds them back from moving to a more like CFO or advisory focused firm. Often. Okay, one more, and then I'll get to what's on the screen. Are you using G-Accon for consolidation with multi-currency at all?
So I don't touch foreign or multi-currency. Okay. That's one of my little, like, we stay in our box in our lane, but I know you can do, I don't know. Yelena can say if she knows, if she can do it. But I will address consolidation because they do allow you to consolidate multiple companies into the same sheet. Right. They allow you to, we personally have like a sheet for every QuickBooks company, and then we do a consolidation one as well. The cool thing is that you don't have to create just one. So for the same client, I actually have 3 different workbooks, one that might be client facing, one that might be on the background with worksheets doing P&L so we can run data and pivot it. There are different purposes to what we do. So we can extract out on demand these things into certain tabs of the workbooks so we can infuse a P&L into a recon that we're doing. So if we want to do a payroll reconciliation every single month, I have the P&L on refresh pulling a VLOOKUP. And then I can actually just, the book numbers are already input. I put in the payroll system, voila, reconciled. So it's not just about the client facing. It's a little bit of those like tactical things too, but consolidation is also something they specialize in. Yeah,
I was going to say, I know that's a big one for them, generally speaking, but Yelena did confirm you can do currency conversion. So you can use it with multi-currency. Okay. So, and then someone just asked about a demo. So that kind of brings me to what's on the screen. So you can sign up for a free trial and you can sign up for a live demo, which G-Accon would run themselves. This discussion today was more about learning about Shannon and how she's used it and implemented it and how it's helped her firm. But you can sign up for the trial and the demo. You probably can't, I'm going to be honest, you definitely can't click on this link, but if you Google them, it will come up and free trial will be an option. So yeah, I guess really all that's left is for me to say thank you for joining me. And I had a great time learning about you and your firm. And is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'll plug one more time that their YouTube channel is phenomenal. So if you do want a demo, I'm sorry I couldn't share my screen and show you client stuff. I didn't have any non-client data to show on the webinar, but they do have some phenomenal YouTube videos. And spoiler, I use pretty much all their standard templates. I got nothing like fancy or special on my side. So whatever they show on their YouTube clips is almost exactly what I use. So you'll be able to reference those visuals there. But they have some great ways of, if you want to just see it live in action, schedule a live demo or jump to their YouTube channel.
Yeah, definitely. And Yelena posted the YouTube channel in the chat for you guys to grab the link to it. Alrighty. Thank you so much. And that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.